This is Tanya Pearson interviewing Team Dresch, the entire band. Donna Dresch.
Hello.
Marcéo Martinez.
Hi.
Jody Bleyle.
Bleyle.
No,
it's good.
And Kaia Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. I've called you Bleyle my entire life.
Oh yeah, there's no way you could know how to pronounce that.
Bleyle.
Impossible.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I remember it. Bleyle.
I should have changed it a long time ago to just like B.
B.
Or whatever. But,
Jody B, Team Dresch.
You've had a lot of names.
oh yeah, that's why
Cody.
I did do Jody Coyote. That made it easier. But
Alright,
anyway.
we have band practice. Let's stay on track.
Sorry, Tanya, we're
That's
bad.
Yeah, we
This
have.
is professional. For those who can't see, I'm wearing a power suit. And this is a very serious interview. So like I said, this is my first time interviewing a full band. What these interviews are personal and professional biographies. So I start way at the beginning. But if we could start with Donna, I guess we'll just try to let go.
I thought I was going to get.
Oh no, it's just Donna. Where'd you grow up?
I'm a Navy brat. I didn't grow up anywhere.
Oh, okay.
But we moved around from Navy base to Navy base, and then finally, my last year of high school, we landed in Olympia, Washington, and it turned out to be probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because that was right in 1983. I had to go down. 1983, yeah, and that was my last year of high school, 84. And it was right around the same time as this punk club opened up in Olympia called the Tropicana, and that brought everybody in the community together, and I made friends that I still have now, and we got to see like every great band, because for some reason they would come to Olympia and play at the Tropicana. So 1984 was a very big year.
Marcéo.
I grew up in Portland, born and raised here, and what was the rest of it?
Well, actually, so you grew up in Portland.
Yeah.
What did your parents do?
Oh, so my mom was a bartender and worked in food service, single parent. My parents divorced when I was young. And I did move around a lot, kind of like Donna, though. Even though I lived in Portland, I went to a lot of different elementary schools. My mom was pretty much, I think that single parent, my sister is quite a few years older than me, and I think just that kind of, we moved a lot, and it was real rough because I went to a lot of different schools as far as like just sort of settling in, and so I had that kind of a similar experience of just not really ever feeling settled, but all in Portland, pretty much, yeah.
And you said you had a sibling?
I have a sister, yeah, an older sister. Yeah, she kind of actually was more like kind of a caretaker for me, like took care of me a lot. She's like almost 10 years older than me. So, yeah.
Next. No, I'm just kidding.
I moved a bunch too, but not as much as Donna, not nearly as much. My dad was in the Navy too, but he was out of active service by the time I was like in elementary school. He was just in the reserves. But we moved as he changed jobs. Handful of places in Connecticut, then did a 6-year stint in Ohio, and then back to Connecticut to graduate from high school. East Coast.
How do you like Connecticut?
I left when I was 17.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, huh?
You went to Reed when you were 17?
Yeah. I moved out here to go to college, and then I stayed on the West Coast.
And did you have siblings?
I do. I have a brother who's 10 years younger than me, Alan, and he is a wonderful musician, queer musician, sperm donor to my 2 children, queer spawn everywhere. And he is, what can't that guy do? I love that. And then my sister, Susan Bleyle, she's the best. She's the best, Susan Bleyle. She is 2 years younger than me.
She seems like she would be older than you.
I know, because she can do everything, and she's just, but she's not. She's my little tiny
I'm surprised
sister.
you're the oldest. That's interesting.
She puts beans in her smoothie.
She puts beans in her
Kaia,
smoothie.
where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Eugene, Springfield in a little tiny town called Jasper. So rural Oregon on some land. My dad was a psychology teacher at a community college, and my mom substitute taught. And I have one older brother who is awesome. Is that good?
You
Did I do
remember, yeah, you just,
Stayed on task.
I didn't mention my brother.
I know, mention
Yeah, tell your brother,
we're going
tell about your
back.
brother. And I didn't say what my parents did either.
yeah, I went a little rogue when I got.
Yeah.
But Donna, you have siblings, and
Oh,
what
yeah.
is your parent?
I didn't know you really wanted to know that.
Yeah, I do wanna
Yes,
know.
I have a brother, and he is very important. My brother is very important with the chainsaw.com community because he is the person that created the whole message board and chat room systems there. And everybody knows Andy B. That was ever on the chainsaw.com website.
And I also want to know what kind of kid you were, like before you discovered the Tropicana and Olympia. Were you introverted, extroverted,
Oh my God.
creative, nerd?
I'm
Cool.
so introverted. I would just tell myself in high school, just wait till you're 18. Just hold out until you're 18, and then you can be the person that you want to be. So I just basically like sucked into myself until 18, and then 17 and a half. That's when we moved, and that's when I moved out.
Why did you move out when you were 17 and a half?
I got a job at a fruit farm with some friends of mine, and so I lived in a van in the fruit farm, and then I never had to go back home.
You're still at the fruit farm.
What kind of kid were you?
Cantankerous.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved out when I turned 18. I kind of did the same thing, sort of like, as like a kid who didn't have a lot of, at that, in the 70s, there were no trans or, transmasculine folks that I knew of or that were role models. So just kind of, went into myself a little bit. But I also went really, really, really into absorbing a lot of like just playing music. I got a drum kit when I was 6. I was very lucky that even though my parents were, at that time my parents were still married, but it was right before they divorced. They saved up and got me a drum kit for my birthday, I think it was. I was like 6. So I just consumed and just played, and I also got a guitar at like when I was like 8 or 9. So I just really like just locked myself in my room and just really got into like that piece of like, this is a place that I can feel myself and have think about other possibilities and what could be when I possibly grow old, get older. And then when I was 18, I did this. I just was like, I'm out. I moved out, got a job. I got like a boring like job at a bank. Like it was terrible, but no, it was like behind the scenes like check processing, but it was like really awful.
10
Do you remember that?
10 key.
10 key is like awful hours. Like I had to be there at like 6 in the morning and we worked 12-hour days. It was just terrible. Ugh, but yeah. But it paid well enough for me to live on my own. So I got out when I came out as, at that time as gay, like I'm a butch or whatever. Came out and then moved out. So
And you were living in Portland?
still in Portland. Yeah, stayed in Portland.
Wait, side note. Did everybody move out of their house at 18? Or
17.
17? We all moved out at 17, basically?
I mean, I went to
17.
college, so I
Yeah.
I don't want to overstate
They can't afford it.
Your college
my level of
experience, or-
independence. I mean, like a lot of people at Reed just stayed here in the summer, so I definitely didn't have the kind of like, I'm here and then I go home and I go home for, and then I'm home for the summer. Like I felt like I moved out here, but I was going to college that my parents paid for. I don't want to act like I'm as cool as you guys, because I'm not.
No, I
That's
Sorry.
it seemed like a rule of thumb in
Yeah,
our
yeah.
generation to just be like,
Yeah, you just
17, you're out.
you're
yeah,
out.
school was
Like,
not something that was on the table for me.
My dad always would
Wasn't
joke, like,
talked
once you
about.
turn 18, I'm handing you the suitcase.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But what kind of a
like a little kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like like if I describe myself and someone else that knew me then described me, I feel like we might say different things. I don't know why, but I like my memories are of spending a lot of time like riding my bike around and singing. I was really independent. I always wanted to have my own money, even when I was really young. Like I got a paper route when I was really little. 10 or whatever, and I just like to be on my own. I like to be roaming the neighborhood, on my bike, singing to myself. I had a pretend radio station.
Oh, I did too.
Me too.
Do you guys have
Yeah.
tapes of that?
Yes.
Oh, I don't
Somewhere.
because we
Yeah.
moved. I don't. All that stuff got thrown out.
Yeah, I'll try to find them.
I wish I had it.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
funny that we all had radio stations.
I was definitely
I knew
like,
that was
I
a
was
thing.
really social with my neighbor kids, but
Uh-huh.
like I remember, but at the same time, like if there were kids like a block away that I went to school with that were all playing, I remember so well feeling like anxiety. Like I wanted to join them, but I didn't really know how. But that was definitely a part, because having kids now, I see that with them, that they're not that way. And I'm like, oh, I really did have a problem with that. Like, see kids play basketball. I'm good at basketball, but I wouldn't join. But some of that stuff might have been gender stuff too, because it's like most of the stuff that I wanted to do, all the boys were doing, and it's like it's harder to break that barrier, you know.
Kaia.
Kaia?
As a little kid, I was a wild animal, and by everybody's accounts and all the photo proof, always pretty much often naked, and I had 9 acres to run around on, and I did catch all sorts of animals, and I was very I felt like I played with a lot with the neighborhood boys, although they were not necessarily nice to me, but I liked to play with them. Sports. Let's see. Sports.
I agree.
Yeah, sports were fun. Played football a lot. And then I also went through like the junior high horror show where I became, like my self-esteem just went from like, yahoo, I'm like kind of just a free person that's a human that's, alive, and then I plummeted into sadness in junior high. And high school's a little better because of coming out and realizing I was a freak, and so just letting the flag fly there. But how's that?
Oh, good. That's great. Yeah. I just don't want to.
How's that? How's that?
I think this is
It's
going.
a little
this is going
in a
okay.
nut.
Going good, Tanya.
Okay. Where do I want to go? Well, yeah, I do want to go back a little bit. Donna, when did you first become interested in music and or like pick up a musical instrument?
Were you gonna finish that? Or keep going?
No, I'm a Gemini, so I just sort of like drift off sometimes. Yeah.
I think, as a kid, I always thought being in the band was like the best thing you could ever be. And I didn't think that I could actually be in a band. So I tried to make album covers, or I tried to figure out how I could record things or whatever. And then finally when we moved to Olympia and I started making friends, that was the first time I actually had real friends. And then Eric Greenwald was like, do you want to be in a band? And I said, yes, of course. And he's like, what do you play? And I just said, bass, because it has 4 strings. And so I immediately, we went to, how did I say this? We went to there used to be a music store in downtown Olympia, and we would go in there, pretend like we were shopping for guitars and basses. And so we would go in the back room there, and we would write songs and just borrow the guitars, and they were like, okay, we have songs. And then we played a show without me even owning any equipment.
You just went to
That's
a
awesome.
music store and
We went there
practiced
every
and-
day.
Oh, okay.
We went there
That's
every
so-
day and practice, and
Dedicated.
That's
Yeah.
our first song goes dun 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 dun.
Yes.
That's a hit.
Mine,
It's a hit. I
My
mean,
first song was like that
songs-
too.
I
That's
think,
so
yeah.
weird.
Marcéo,
That's great.
I'm gonna skip you because
It's fine.
you said you already told you
Yeah, I was 6 when I
started
was.
playing the drums at 6.
Yeah,
Guitar. Well, when did you join your first band? Because you moved out young too and were working.
Yeah. I was in a band called Silencer in middle school,
Yeah.
and I was gonna play guitar and be the singer, but then I was told I couldn't sing that well, and I was very awful for my self-esteem. And
Was it a grown-up that told you that?
no, it was the kid, the
That's so
other
messed up.
the other guys in the band. They were just yeah. Anyway, so I had my taste of oh, I guess I'm just I suck or whatever, I wasn't good enough, and they're like, we're gonna have Robert sing, he's better. And he was like, puberty, voice was cracking, and I'm like, I guess, all right, whatever. And then I was just like, I'm done, I'm not doing this. So I quit Silencer. But my next real
Thank God
band,
for Team Dresch.
I know, right? My next real band, though, I was 16 and I joined a local cover band with other teenagers and one 30-year-old guy. And we played around in small, like, Oregon City or small towns at the coast. And we played covers.
That's
and we
so
did
fun.
2 sets and we played for 2 hours. 1 hour set, take a break. So that we had to have a designated table in the bar because we were all under 21. It was great. I made like
Except for the one
$1,000.
guy.
I made like
I don't know,
$1,000 in a fall.
You were a professional musician.
I was
That's-
professional. I was getting paid.
Those,
So,
I mean,
those are
that was pretty
real
cool.
gigs.
I've
yeah.
never been
Those
that
were-
professional.
Those
No,
were
that's
yeah.
amazing, Marceo.
And also, it shows it.
That was
It's
my
like,
that was like my job.
so cool.
Yeah. But I could never play Born to Be Wild or hear it ever again.
Oh god.
As I played it so
Horrible.
many times.
Jody, first musical instrument. When did you become interested in music in general?
I think I always just love singing. I remember a story just now of like when my grandparents had a little step in their living room, and I guess when I was like 3, I corralled them and their neighbors to listen to me give a little performance. So I always loved singing and wanted to sing for people. But my mom, now I remember too, my mom she didn't give me, but she set me up to take a guitar lesson when I was really little, like maybe 2nd or 3rd grade. And I obviously didn't stick with it. I mean, I feel like if I had been an awesome guitar player, but it was like, feels hard, like it didn't. But then I remember a few years later, like some boys in 5th grade had a band where they were playing like Out of the Blue into the Black. Is that the name of the Neil Young song?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, hey, my, my.
Mm,
Right.
And I like went over to one of their houses after school and learned that guitar part, and they were going to be in a band in the talent show, and I was very jealous. But I was taking piano lessons at that time from a church lady. And so I did take some piano lessons, and then I started playing bass in high school a lot. I met someone who was a really good piano player, an all-around musician, and he and I just started playing together all the time, playing at school, playing in the practice rooms of the hallway of school. I liked playing piano, but I liked playing piano. I liked playing piano a lot. I would just start playing pop songs, trying to pick them out by ear, singing all the time, I was one of those kids that just walked around singing all the time. I have a kid like that now, and it's really intense. I mean, he's a great singer, and I love him, but it's intense to have someone singing in your house all the time. So now I really see what I did to others. But that was what I love to do. But yeah, then when I met John in high school, it was like we really were a good match, and we just every day after school we would just 4-track our own songs and learn pop songs and just play all the time together. And then we had a band and then stuff. Yeah.
Was Love Bite your first Portland band?
No, I was in a band called Allison's Thesis.
That's right.
And I met Allison, who was named after the other day for the first time. So weird. But yeah, I had a band called Allison's Thesis. Then there was Mastodon, American Imperial Mastodon. Then Love Bud.
Oh.
Then Hazel and Team Dresch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
You were a well-rounded musician by the time you.
There were some really good people at Reed that I got to play with. It was really, really a rad time. Because there were just people from all over the country that had deep knowledge of their scenes, like in DC or in Lake Madison or, Southern California. And so I just learned so much about music there and got to play with a lot of people.
Kaia, you're up.
Okay, let's see. I grew up with my mom played guitar and sang, and she'd done that when she was in college with with her friends, little singing groups doing covers, and so I did have like music as a central. We had a piano in the house, and so music was around, and I absorbed it early on as a kid, and I did take piano lessons. I didn't like taking piano lessons. I found it very frustrating, and I really was nervous about recitals. But I'm sure it helped me, to understand music in a way. I'm happy I did it now. Let's see, I played saxophone. You left that part out. I know you played saxophone too.
Yeah, we both did. Oh yeah, I left out my whole, we were saying the other day, the public school music education.
Band.
Yeah.
It was
It was
a
deep.
school band.
I think
Yeah.
all the get lesbians and gay kids playing
Yeah.
saxophone. Alto saxophone?
Yeah.
Well, it started
and
on.
Barry.
Then I went
You went to
tenor,
tenor.
and I went to Barry too.
Yeah, we
Oh.
both went to Barry.
I mean,
I
because we're
never went
Butch.
there.
Eventually, Butch
I was
ends
like,
at
how big is
baritone.
it? It's too heavy for you. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, I'll take it. I can totally pull that off. It's all the way down to the ground.
Dragging
awesome.
it.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
So I played in a jazz band in high school too.
Me too.
And I quit
too.
because of this horrifying lady outfit I had to wear that with a cummerbund all the way up here.
Why do they do
God.
It
this?
was horrifying. I was literally. I mean, I really was out of my gender feeling felt so messed up that I quit jazz band because of that. It's not a joke. Anyway, let's see. Then what happened? Oh, guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 14, and because my mom taught me a few chords, and then I just went from there. I sort of also made up how to play some chords. I still play. I play the wrong fingering. I made some of it up. Let's see. Then I was in. I wasn't in it wasn't a proper band, but Molly Newman and Allison Wolf from Bratmobile. They lived in Eugene, and I was this little gay goth punk hippie person who got into a gay college scene. I went to some parties, and I just met them at one of these parties, and I was still in high school. And then they were like, "Oh God, you're gay in high school? That's so cool!" I remember them saying that to me, and me being just like, "Why is that cool? That's it's just is that cool? Why is that cool? They think I'm cool because I'm gay in high school." But they thought it was so tough to be, just in a rural, especially in rural Oregon. But and now I see why that is cool or whatever. It was at least tough. But at the time I was like, I don't feel cool. But I played music with them at my parents' house in my parents' garage outside of Springfield, Oregon.
Do you have any recordings of that?
No, that would be
Donna was
that would be
recording.
stellar.
Donna's documentation.
So they introduced me to all this, zine culture and I sort of already knew about it. Actually, I already knew about it because Donna's zine that I got my hands on when I was 16. Donna's zine Chainsaw.
That's a tiny baby.
I wrote her. I was pen pals with Donna when I was 16, which was amazing. But that's not exactly music. But that's how we met. Donna and I. And then I was in my first band, A Dick Did, when I was still. I graduated high school a year early when I was 17, and I moved out and I went to college at U of O for a year. So my first band was called A Dick Did. That's ADICKDID. A Dick Did. And that was a all girl grunge band, and it was super, super grunge, super great, fun. Really feel lucky for that experience, and that's it. Or no, yeah, and then I was in Team Dresch after that.
Okay, so two of you went to college. I'm always kind of wondering, people who end up being lifelong musicians, what were your kind of, and we can just go this way, but what were your, expectations for yourself once you moved out of your house and discovered music? Did you plan on, being a musician or figuring out a way to make music kind of like a career or something you could do forever?
Oh, definitely not as a career. But it was definitely a social thing. And it was I could not do it. I had to do it. So I had to make zines, I had to make cassettes, I had to meet other people that were like myself, and I had to play music. There was just no question. So it was maybe social more than. I've never looked at music as a business, actually, except for even when I ran my own record label, I never looked at it as a business. So that's why I don't work in the music industry anymore.
Yeah.
And Marcéo, you said that you didn't go.
No, I did. I've gone to community college off and on for years, but I never ended up, finishing. So my thing with the way with growing up with a working class family, and my parents didn't graduate My mom did go to college, went to like community college, but it wasn't talked about in my family. So for me, it was just like get a good paying, always have the job, always have, be responsible, pay the bills, have a place to live. And so I've kind of always had like a pretty solid job, and I kind of fell into social work actually, and that's what I do now. I've been working in both the state for government, and now I work in the county. So I have a great job, great benefits, and no college degree needed. And I love what I do. But for music, as far as like, I felt like I have always had to do it just because it feeds my soul. It helps me stay, just for like just regulation, just like exercise or whatever for folks and for myself too, exercising. But like I needed that. But I think like what Donna said, like it was never. I wanted that fantasy was there. Like I want to be a famous, but it was really not. I didn't think that was realistic. So business, having it make a living at it was not. I knew it was going to always be there, but I'm always going to have like that stable job to kind of, this is the thing I do to keep me sane. And this is what I do to keep me sane too and secure,
Next.
Yeah, I know,
Next.
I don't even totally remember. Wait, say the question again, Tanya?
Just, so you did go to, well, actually, my question for you is a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Were you, was education something that you were expected to pursue after high school?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of what were your expectations for yourself as a college student? Like, what did you kind of plan to do with your life once you found music? How big a part was that in your kind of plans for your future self?
I would say that I did want to be a musician. I did want to probably be like a rock star when I was little. Like one of my games was like once I got the Kiss Destroyer album, like we would just stand on the fireplace and act it out after school every day, like put on the record and just, all I wanted to do was play music, and I wasn't in a punk scene or anything when I was in high school, or, my parents weren't musicians. I got educated a lot through going to church with my mom, singing in the choir and stuff. So it was more like, but my family also, there was definitely an expectation that I was going to go to college. It's like I was raised in New England. Both my parents my mom went to Colby, my dad went to Bowdoin. And they were really into the small liberal arts colleges. They, would go visit them on the weekends, or, when we were driving through a town, I'd be like, well, that's where whatever is, Smith, or, so, and I was the oldest. I think if I had been in a different family, or maybe even a different, birth order or whatever, I kind of knew that going to college was not really what I should do based on what I cared about, which was playing music, but I didn't really know how to do anything else. And I couldn't say no to that with my parents. So I did what I thought worked the best for all of us, which was that I came all the way across the country to Portland. So it was a long way away, but it was a college that they felt good about me going to. So it's it got both of those things, and then it just ended up being, it really worked for me. I just found people that I loved deeply, right away, and really connected with, many of whom I'm still friends with and play music with, and Kaia has lived with, and these guys have known forever. And so I think I think also if I weren't queer and hadn't been coming out and stuff, I think things might have gone differently too, because that just became such a center of my life. It was I can't just be I want to go to Berkeley and study music and be in a band. It's I need to figure out how to be a person, and I need some friends. And if these people are my friends and my family now, I'm not leaving them. This is what's most important to me, And so just those worlds just mixed at that time, at Reed, while I was at Reed. I mean, I loved going to school, but I also I was not a good student the way colleagues there were, like, just on their way to getting PhDs, like you, Tanya. They were,
A little late.
they were little, but I was definitely like majoring in, hey guys, let's go get my PA and put on a show in the mailroom. I didn't, there were a lot of people that were pretty surprised when I pulled off turning in my thesis at the end. But, I'm glad that I did it too, because there was just, it was an amazing time. But yeah, I did want to play music afterwards. I knew that I wanted to do that afterwards. I never had any thought of going to grad school or doing anything else. And I got really lucky because the people in Hazel invited me to join when I was still at Reed, and I didn't know them, but one of the people in Hazel, Brady, his girlfriend went to school with me, and she had said, ask Jody to be in your band, doing whatever. And I played drums a little bit, and they needed a drummer, so they asked me to play drums. And Hazel just kind of took off right away, so I didn't have to, I just kind of got sucked into being able to do it, not have another job, and then I met Donna. So I just got really lucky in that way.
Kaia.
Yeah.
Just like how,
Yeah.
basically same as Jody. You went
How
to
did I
school
think
one.
about music?
Yeah.
Maybe too. Yeah. And let's see. I forgot to. I left this out. I did write songs when I was a little kid. When I was 9, I wrote a song called "You Make Me Cry That Special Way." When it had like a full like verse, chorus, bridge, which had a balloon solo, and then I also wrote a song based on the kids' novel Julia the Wolves.
I've heard that song.
That I read when I was 10 years old, and I wrote a song because I got like a crush on the character, like in the book. Anyway, and also just I'm like, I want to live with a wolf pack. Anyway, so I started doing like music was gonna be my life. Clearly, it was very important. Music, animals. I did never think I would be like a famous musician or like that. I didn't have a specific goal. I never actually had very great specific goals, except for just like, I'm in this thing right now and let's do this. And I got lucky too in terms of who I just somehow met really early on. I felt super lucky to have met Donna, or met her through the USPS.
Yes.
And I went to college for a year and I dropped out because I certainly didn't know what I was doing in college, and so why stay? And then I just did music after that, and I just basically have pieced my life together really weirdly as an adult, and still am doing the weird piecing together of my life so that I can still play music. That's been something that's been really important to me, is to keep it in my life one way or another.
Donna, can you talk about the kind of catalyst for starting Team Dresch, the band? Or anyone
that
can.
blank
I was trying to like still go in order.
Kaia and I were pen pals at the time, and did I have a recording of yours yet?
You had like my solo stuff.
Yeah, and so I was just like, I can tell that I like what she's doing.
Aww.
I mean, it wasn't like exactly. I was like,
You're like, not exactly
I can make
right.
It could work.
I can make that a little grungier, a little punk, more punk.
So we were pen paling, and I think that you came and played in Olympia, and then we hung out there, and we like definitely bonded for real. Then and then, literally just like a couple weeks later, I think that's when Hazel came by, and Hazel was playing in the backstage of the Capitol Theater in Olympia, and then Jody and I basically were just like, bing. They were like, I know you, like. We just instantly bonded right then, and she was definitely saying like, I want to be in a band of all lesbians.
Brady, who I've mentioned, he worked with Donna at the Smithfield.
Yeah.
So he was like, you have to meet Donna. She was walking through the alley in Olympia. And I was like, Donna from Danger Mouse? Because I had like learned her bass line to practice the bass. She was like, why, yes.
And then Jody and I were instantly just like, we can't be away from each other. We have to be together all the time. Let's get Kaia also. And then Kaia said yes. And then that's it, right? Bye.
So you guys like
I
had
don't
instant
remember.
chemistry
I don't
to
know.
date.
I
is
don't
what I'm
remember
hearing.
how the actual. Did I come to an Addicted show and
Yeah.
did you say, "Do you want to play music with me and Donna?"
That's
Standing on the stairs.
More my memory.
Okay, well,
Is that we had already, Donna and I had already talked about playing music together, but you and Donna had already talked about playing music together,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think that's
I
what
talked to
happened.
you
I think
last.
that's what happened.
Okay, so you
At a
guys,
Hazel
yeah,
show.
you guys,
You guys
Or
talked
Addicted or
and
Hazel.
we talked and then you guys were-
Addicted played with Hazel.
Yeah, you got. Yes,
we?
I think we did, but
I
I
don't
think that we talked about this at only an Addicted show because I
Yeah.
don't think Hazel was playing because I just remember it being for me mellower, like I was just hanging out. I remember like you were singing and I'd come into the room and then I'd go out and walking around and I do remember like where I was walking when I was like, I could sing with that person.
Wow.
And then later that night we were walking down the stairs and you were like, Donna, and we should play
Yeah.
music together.
I was super shy. I was 19. How was I even in that club?
When did you guys?
I don't
was
know,
all
that's
ages.
really
It was
Oh,
young.
it was X-ray.
Yeah, no, it was like the Pine Street or
Mm.
whatever it was called.
Oh, it was all ages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you? When
I
did
don't
you
know
guys
where I
go?
was.
Marcéo was
I
probably
was
at a
in-
Calamity Jane show.
I was in a band called Calamity Jane at that time. Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna interview?
I will. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I want to interview everyone.
Gilly.
No, but I was just like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if
Gilly's-
I ever
Gilly's pretty-
realized that you were in that.
Yeah. I was also very young. I was like 19, 20, 19. That's how we played with Addicted, I think. in
I love
Eugene.
Calamity Jane too.
And then we played with Hazel a bunch, and
Yeah.
that's how we met. Jody, we was at a Reed show. We played with Hazel at Reed, right?
You guys.
maybe we were just playing.
It might have just been Calamity Jane.
And Jody came up and was just like, "Wow, this is drumming and show me this part. Oh my god, that's amazing!" And I was just like, "I don't know. I'm so scared. I'm overwhelmed."
Teach me that
And
part.
yeah,
I
and then
remember.
I was
Come
like,
on,
"Buy me a
walk
beer. Can you buy
7-Eleven."
me a beer?" and then we
Underage.
talked, and then we're like, "Yeah, let's play." Somehow we're just like, "We want to do this. Let's do it."
And wait, who's I?
Or maybe no, maybe we didn't talk about that then. No, we just talked about music.
Yeah, because I don't even.
'Cause I was still in
probably
Calamity
wasn't
Jane.
in Team Dresch then.
No,
when
I
we
was still in
first met.
Calamity Jane. Yeah,
I wasn't in.
that's
Team
how we
Dresch.
just met. Yeah,
But then, as soon as we started doing Team Dresch,
they were
well,
like,
they said I played drums at first in Team Dresch, and I was just like, I actually don't want to play drums. I don't like. I love playing drums in Hazel. It happened. It's an accident. I'm getting a little better, but like, it's not. I really want to sing, and it's more fun to stand up when you sing. And so then we started to look for a drummer, and I'm sure I suggested Marcéo.
yeah, because
we
you
were
had
already
you had
friends.
a couple. We had Teddy and we had
Yeah.
a couple different folks,
And how?
and then you
like,
suggested me.
what was the
Scotty.
Which one of you said that
Oh,
it was
Scott.
important that you wanted to start an all lesbian?
All
band?
of
I mean, I
us.
think we all wanted to
All
play
of
with
us.
Dykes.
All of
Yeah, I
us.
think that was the initial feeling. That yeah.
And when you started playing, how did you like fit into the music scene? What was the kind of immediate reception?
I thought it was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You're in the Northwest?
Yeah.
I mean,
The
I've
Loving
been playing
Arms.
in bands for forever already, and so I already was like in this music scene, and so was Jody, and so was Kaia,
and so was
Marcéo.
Marcéo.
So
Yeah,
we're
we were-
already like in the
Yeah.
scene. We're just like all came together.
It was like a super group.
It
Like
was.
an-
It's like Brad
underground super group.
Brangelina.
Yeah.
Is that what is that? I'm
That
not
they're
even
not
saying it
together
right.
anymore. They
They're
haven't been
not, yeah,
together
it's
for.
not-
I'm not
That's
even
like
saying it
20
right.
years ago.
I know, but I just watched
It's
Forrest
like-
Gump.
Sophie
okay,
Turner.
I live in the-
Just
Joe
watch
Jonas.
Forrest
I'm
Gump.
kidding. I mean, I do live in the 90s.
But yeah, it was just a lot of love immediately. I mean, like our first official show, wasn't it with Lois at La Luna or something? I don't even remember.
Just
No, we
you
played
all.
two before.
Was Benin?
Yeah, I don't know, I
before.
don't remember. But yeah, it was
It was
just,
a whirlwind.
super
That's all
fun.
I
It
remember.
was just super fun. Yeah, it was just awesome.
Right out of the gate.
Super fun right out.
What
Yeah.
were the like kind of band dynamics at the beginning? What was the like songwriting recording process like? Like what role did each of you kind of play in that?
Well, we had, like there's certain songs that come in almost fully formed and then, but might change the style or the vibe. Like I think Free Will, like Kaia had written the whole song, but it was more like a
Folk,
whole lot of
little-
things to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, slower, acoustic.
So, but then other songs, like the riffs start in the practice space and it gets really put together there. Or some songs, someone will bring in a riff that they'd already written and then we'll work on it there. So it was pretty collaborative. We
Yeah.
did do a lot of, Donna and I did a lot of recording of, I would record practically everything on a mini disc. And you had a mini disc player too.
I also would sit in my room with a 4-track, and I'd work on riffs and then I bring it in and be like, how about this?
Yeah. Yeah, and then we did, like, as we were working up to recording records that we had like we would 4-track or we'd record like kind of demos of the songs just to hear them and then play them back. Like, it didn't seem like a very formal, it wasn't like a formal process or anything, but just looking back now, I'm like, we do have all these tapes and recordings. Like, we did try to put these things together to a certain extent before we went into the studio. Because a lot of things change so much in the studio that I'm like, did we write songs before we went into the studio? But then I hear all these tapes, I'm like, we did, like, spend a lot of time just tweaking and tweaking.
Can you talk a little bit about, I just know that a lot of bands, in hindsight, from this area get kind of like lumped into the Riot Girl category, like retrospectively. So you guys were known as like this really important queercore band, sometimes Riot Girl. I want to know how you identify yourselves as musicians and as a band.
Who wants to do that one?
Queercore
I
resonates
think queercore.
with always resonating more as if you're gonna have to put us under a label of whatever, that I like that one best.
Yeah, I feel like back in the day, like when we played shows, that always had to be either all ages or advertised as a queer show, so that the bar, like if we're in a bar or like not an all ages space, that it would feel safe for queer people, so they would explicitly know, come, this is for you. But like I don't remember using queer core on that word wasn't used
No, we
really
never did.
yet. It was never, right?
No,
It was
just that's a thing from now.
That's a thing
Yeah.
from now, right? So, but like, and it was kind of the same for like we never used the term Riot Girl for ourselves. Now Melissa, who's not here, who's our other drummer, she was in Riot Girl New York with like Evelyn McDonald, and I heard they were like a really queer Riot Girl crew. So they felt like it was really queer also. Like for me, I always felt a little bit like Riot Girl wasn't big, like it felt straight to me, but I know that it wasn't, for everybody at all. But just so, to me, it was definitely more like we're just on the queer side of things. But also Riot Girl, I feel like was the similar, like, it's not like it said Riot Girl on posters, like when we'd play
No,
shows
that's
with all
also
those
a now
bands.
thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of in retrospect thing. So the way that I've recently, when I think about Riot Girl now, this many years later, just in terms of being lumped in that category, I'm just embracing it. Because even though it was not what we were, or I'd just rather be included than left out. And I just feel like there have been a lot of things that we've been left out of because we're not Riot Girl, but Riot Girl just means like feminist punk of that time period. And we played with all those bands all the time. We were totally at the like white hot center of that. We had labels that put out all those records. So like when someone does something about Riot Girl and they don't include us, it doesn't feel good, So now, but also now, like for other people who just ask about my band, maybe they're not into music, they don't know what kind of thing. I'll just, if they say, oh, is it Riot Girl? I'll say, have you heard of Riot Girl? They'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, it's like that. Because that's just, they don't care about the minutia of the differences of genres, So I'm just trying to like go with the flow of history a little bit and be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Riot
do you
Girls.
think you're left out of Riot Girl because of the queer
Yeah.
label? I mean, that just seems to happen no matter what kind of music it is. If there's
Oh,
Erasure.
Like,
there's a separation. There's
It's erased. Yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
It can be.
But I could see how also it's like, if I were writing a book about Riot Girl, it's like, well, we don't identify as Riot Girl, right?
Right, so we
then it's
make
like,
that.
well, that's it. But at the same time, it's like, but Riot Girl means like feminist punk of that time. So it's like, what do? Like we are that.
it's more that just like queercore gets left out of the bigger picture
Yes.
than anything.
Right.
Like it's like you hear about Riot Girl, you don't really
You
hear
don't
about
really hear
queercore,
about
but they were
yes.
both. If you want to have them be like two separate things, even though they had so much overlap that
Yeah.
you shouldn't really separate them, but they get labeled as separate, and like everybody was in it together, at least theoretically, as a political movement. So so everybody influenced each other hugely. I mean, like Donna was the grunge queen of Olympia for like everybody was influenced by Donna. I mean, it's like all the
Yes.
so anyway, that's where it's like it gets kind of erased or like pushed aside. It's like that's the uglier side of history there. I mean, I don't think it's ugly. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
no, it's just
beautiful.
It's just what happens.
Gorgeous.
It's not it's just you can see it. You can see how it happens. Like
Homo-
it's just a more
homophobia.
complicated. It's a more complicated story, and so I can see how it gets separated and then removed and erased. It's easy to kind of see how it happens, but it would be good that if it didn't happen.
We weren't quite as glamorous looking though in the like, or we didn't like do like a press. We should have not talked to the press. That gets them.
Whatever.
That always makes them watch them more.
Yeah.
They would just be like, fine.
I know exactly. We don't want to talk to you actually.
Okay, so, well, I think I'll just like let you guys talk, because I know you have practice too, so I'm trying to like,
We could not practice.
Donna.
Donna!
no, you
It's
gotta
7:13
rehearse.
already.
But if you could just elaborate on the band's kind of trajectory, it seemed to me as a kid that you got really big really quickly, for like an undergrad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know there's like different levels.
Yeah.
But, big to me. And then so I guess just start there. But the trajectory from like starting the band, this is what we're gonna do, to like playing shows, you're well received. What happened? What did you want? What did you intend for the band to accomplish? And then how do you feel about like what ultimately happened?
Huh?
You can just
Go.
yeah.
We're all looking at you, Donna.
Okay.
As like broad
Go,
as
Donna.
possible.
We put out a 7-inch with Kill Rock Stars. That was our very first recording. We recorded it at Yo Yo Go Go, and for some reason that 7-inch like went gangbusters. Like we were in every zine, every like weekly or what, not weekly.
We were in
but,
Rolling Stone.
like Spin. We were in Spin,
We were in Rolling Stone.
and that at the time Spin was like super huge.
I
And-
love Spin. That's where I got out.
And so on
Yeah.
this 7-inch alone, the 3 songs, we were able, because of enough notoriety of being in all of these papers, we were able to book shows by people who didn't know anything about us. And here we are on AOL, chatting with club owners or, I don't know, kids that were booking shows or whatever. And so we were able to book a pretty sizable tour on this one 7-inch. And I think because of that, we were able to, Kaia.
Keep the momentum going for our next record, because we went right out and started touring before we had the record out.
I didn't know you went on tour.
Well, we
before
did at
Personal
least a
Breath. That's
short.
That
breast.
7-inch. That 7-inch
Yeah.
was the.
Yeah, that's right.
That
Yeah.
was
I
the.
didn't know that.
That was the Bikini
Well, then
Kill
who was
tour.
our drummer?
It was just a 3-piece?
No,
What
You
are
were
guys
the drummer.
talking about? Marceo, you came.
you
came on
I
that
know,
tour.
I-
you were on that
But you're
tour,
talking
but I
about
feel like it
7-inch
is
though.
pre. But I think it's
No,
pre.
that was just.
Down
that,
the-
Oh, I
it
see.
was in
We
no.
already recorded
We did a
it.
full
That's
U.S.
probably-
tour in '94.
But the 7-inch
Marceo.
helped to
Yeah.
book the tour.
But
Gotcha.
the
I got
album
you, Donna.
wasn't
I'm
out.
on the same page.
Okay.
I'm caught up.
I
I was like,
It was
you went on tour?
We would have got without you.
We
No,
got this.
I just didn't remember
Yeah.
that.
We got this.
Got
It's
it?
foggy.
We know our history.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, tour. Then
Just-
Marceo was there.
I was there.
Yeah, you
Jody?
said that New York City was a neat little town.
I did say, what
this is
a neat town. And then I ended up living there.
We were all like,
fast forward many years. I
Neat
lived there for a little bit.
town.
This is a neat town.
Stuck
That was just
with
a-
me
I never
forever.
left
That
Portland.
was a neat town. It is a neat
It
town
is a
though,
neat
Marceo,
town.
you're right.
I loved it there.
What was it like being a raging lesbian band touring the United States?
Yeah.
How was that?
Watch out for each other.
I mean, there's a lot of watching out for each other. There's a lot of, I think that's when I learned that when you go in the gas station, you just ask for the bathroom key.
Yes.
And whichever one they give you, you just take, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You just don't want people to be, when people are confused,
Mm.
that's when they get angry.
Or they just get
They
weird.
feel dumb, and then they get angry, and that's
Yeah.
when things get ugly.
But
It's true, right?
It's bad.
Yeah, it was great though. I mean, we were meeting so many people because we were online really early, so we were meeting all these people. I mean, it's just like fanzines, but just a little bit more immediate, you know? So it was like just meeting all the people that you book the shows with, you know, the standard like punk tour kind of stuff, staying in everybody's houses. Donna has a better memory than me. I just
She does. Donna's got the best. I wasn't on AOL though. I just you guys talk about the computer, and you're really
That part
both
was
good
really
at the
fun.
computer,
Yeah, they were,
and
like, ahead of the game
I didn't
about
do.
that
I'm not
technology.
good at computer. Was never good at computer, and I just feel like it's like you make me sound so cool, and I'm just not. It's not that cool.
Good at
You say
computer.
computer.
I'm good at
I call it the
computer.
computer. I was never good at
well,
it.
Jody and I were dating.
They were
and so
amazing
we
at the
just spent
computer.
all the time on the computer, and we were.
Oh, that gave you inspiration to really learn it.
yeah, I don't know. That so
seemed
it
like
was
a-
just that cycle
seemed
for
so
those
hard.
few years of just, you know, touring and writing songs, coming back, recording. We were running our record. Donna and I were both running a record label at the same time. So it was just like so nonstop, like doing Free to Fight, the self-defense project at the same time, and then. So I mean, I think that then the significant like band moment then was that Marcéo decided to leave after the first record because he had another band that he was in that was more of a priority, I think, that's the way I
At
remember
the
it.
time, I don't know. Yeah, I think I was just really like, it was. I think for me, it was really. In hindsight, you know, after coming out as you know through a few years ago as trans, I think it was more like I was really like, I don't know where I fit in. I don't know, you know, still feeling a lot of that and still very young, and so I didn't feel at the time like. Where do I fit in? Where do I fit in? And these were my friends. These are people that I felt like were my real friends. So I'm gonna play music with my real friends, even though I'm looking back and I'm like, who are my family that I'm with today? You know, it's just youth. You know, just kind of, and also fear. I really was afraid a lot. Did do things and didn't do things based in fear, and
Well,
then, you
it
know, and I
was
regret
scary.
a lot. You know, that's just part of learning and growing and seeing that experience and going, But yes, I did leave the band and.
But
played
it
in
was
this punk
hearing
band for a
Marcéo,
while.
it was, you know,
Yeah.
like we
It was a
were
Yeah.
gay bashed, you know, after one of our
Yeah,
shows, and
there
like
was a lot.
that, you know, the stuff, all of that, like the threat of violence at shows. I mean, it was at a lot of punk shows at the time.
Yeah.
There were, you know, Nazi skinheads in town. There still are. But they would come to shows regularly, all kinds of shows, everybody's shows, you know.
Especially
But ours were
Riot
way
Girl,
worse.
queer
like,
core
the queer
shows.
It was way worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was stressful. It was real, you know. And being like with your friends is really important. I mean, I can totally relate to that because of like the friends that I made more like through Reed. It's like your friends are your friends, and like if you want to be with them, that's fine. You don't have to be in a gay band just because you're gay, you know.
But you know, what's interesting is that when after all that happened and I left the band, I didn't really stay in that band with my friends for very long. I want to be in a queer band, and so I started a band with my girlfriend at the time, and Joanna Bolmy, who plays in the Jicks and Quasi, was also in Calamity Jane, was playing drums, and we did this little side project, La Granuda, and then that became Vegas Beat. So I still came back to the queerness and that, you know, sense of community and what was combining those things, you know, music and that. But sometimes you do things that you kind of have to sort of go and, you know, figure it out, you know.
And then can you, so you guys are like the kind of epitome of DIY, independent music making, zine making, culture creation. Was it your intention, all of you, to remain a DIY band, to remain kind of independent at a time when bands were getting signed a lot to like major labels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was our intention. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
That's not a very good answer, huh? Yes.
No, I mean, like it was that those were our values. Our values were based in that, in having not just the artistic control, but just not being part of that big machine that none of us really, I don't think, had a lot of respect for or whatever. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for us. Our home is punk, it's DIY. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, we were pretty strict. Like, I get asked, like, "Oh, did you see this movie that came out in 1994?" And I was like, "I didn't watch major label movies."
Oh.
Donna.
But Donna, can you talk a bit about, or Jody too, but running the record label, and I mean, did you also do everything yourselves for Team Dresch? Did you like book your tours? Did you do all that stuff? I mean, what was that like workload like?
Well, we were pretty smart, at least, knowing that we could not do our own publicity and knowing we could not do our own radio promotions, and we knew we could find other DIY people that running their own business who is a publicist in their own business that does radio promotions, and so we were able to hire other DIY people to kind of help us out, so it really relieved a lot of the workload there.
Yeah, but it was a lot. I mean, it was true. Like Donna said. I mean, I started the record label because I think like Hazel got signed to Sub Pop really quickly, and we had a little bit of money, and I just wanted to share. Basically, I was like, if I'm going to go on tour, I want my friends' bands to go on tour too. I want them to put out records too. So it was like when I think about how I learned about the business part. I mean, I remember like being in the office supply store and actually being like, okay, well, there are invoice books, and there are, I mean, like, that's a pretty bad way to learn about business. So there were, but like we had, like I did have my first intern, Emily Kingen, who went on to be in tons of amazing queer bands, and she ran Candy Ass a lot, and I was a nanny for a little while also to Brady from Hazel's kid Isabel, and I just remember like it's like people on Candy Ass would come into my office, and like someone would be holding Isabel and someone would be like doing mail order, and Emily would be holding everything down, and like then I had some guy named Max who ended up like embezzling money, and I mean it was chaos. It was kind of chaos and a mess, but we put out a lot of records for a short period of time and did Free to Fight, which was amazing, but it was too much. Like when I look back, because like by the end of somewhere in there in like 1995, I really had a nervous breakdown, which now I think how fast I came back from that, back just meaning like functional and going on tour again. I'm like, why didn't I take like 3 years off? Like that was like that was like the amount of time I would give myself to get over the flu at this point, But now I look at what was going on, I'm like, of course, it was just crazy. It was like adrenaline all day, every day for, like 5 years or something. I have a feeling when Kaia was running Mr. Lady, it was a little more of a pro scene, possibly.
I mean, well, I just did, Tammy Ray took a lot of that, the
Yeah.
business aspect of it. I did much more of the communication. Let's say. What did I do? I did the mail order.
Delivery was fun.
I did the mail order.
Did you use computer?
Yeah, I used computer then. That was 1997.
All
I
right.
did figure out the
Just
computer in
checking. Yeah,
1997.
Mail count.
If you guys were like me, like I had a cassette label in the 80s, and it's really you just want to hear the music, and at the time it was really hard to hear the music. It wasn't online. The only way you could get it is if like they recorded practice for you or whatever. And so I just really wanted to hear them. So I would be like, I will figure out how to get this printed if you put it on a label. And they're like, fine. It wasn't until later in the 90s where it was like the business became overwhelming, and it's like, oh, this isn't fun anymore.
Well, yeah, because that's exactly right. It's like you do it because you go to that band show and you hear the song and you think it's so amazing and you want to actually help get it into the world. Actually, there's no other way to do that, and it's complicated enough and costs enough money that people can't do it unless they have help. Yeah, but then a few years later, it turns out that you're actually running a business and you're paying, I did end up paying people like $10 an hour, but I wasn't actually keeping books, you know, I mean, if I'd had to give someone unemployment, I mean, I don't even know how that would have happened, and then having to keep track of money, and it's like, I can't do this, and now people are mad or they're not, I mean, it's just like, you just had to walk away, because I wasn't really running a business. I started doing something to try to help put out records without really giving it much thought, and then
Over your
it just
head.
became, I was in way over
Over
my
your
head.
head. Yeah.
But hopefully, like, it was more, it did more good than harm.
Oh, heck
And
yeah.
plus, everything went digital, and I was like, I didn't want to get involved in that. That seemed just like a whole other world. Nobody was buying CDs anymore, and so,
yeah.
like, what do I do with all these CDs now? Anyways, okay.
What led to the Team Dresch's breakup? Was it all that?
Split.
I was
Marcéo?
wondering if it was the.
My fault.
It's Marceo's fault.
I want Marcéo to tell the story.
Well, I
Marcéo, you mean when you want to tell Marcéo to tell the story after of when Marcéo wasn't even in the band?
When Melissa was in the band,
I don't know.
we could just say Melissa and I went and
They went
formed a
and started
different
the
band. I moved. I was dating Tammy Ray Carland, who was a real official person who ran Mr. Lady Records, and it was actually, as I'm thinking about it, like there were definitely really stressful times and very busy times for me too, definitely for Tammy Ray. Let's see. So Tammy Ray, I was dating her. She got a job in North Carolina. Well, actually, first in Indiana, but whatever. So I moved basically, and then Melissa and I started playing in a band called the Butchies in North Carolina, based in North Carolina, with Allison Martlew. And that was, we were a band for almost 8 years, I think, or 7 years. We were a band for a long time. We put out 4 albums. Yeah, and it was super fun. And then I moved back to Portland though, because I had to come back. But in between that, actually, Team Dresch,
We did keep playing.
fell back in love, let's just say, or something. Like maybe we were on a little hiatus of.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. I mean, we kept playing, and there was some, tension with that because Kaia didn't want us to keep playing, but we kept playing. But then but it, really was a pretty short period of time, actually, of those, like, the years of, like, being on the outs. And then we had the Hug Fest in
Hugfest.
Seattle, and which was probably like 2002 or maybe even sooner. I don't know. It wasn't.
I think it was 2002, seems about right.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know actually.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
Nobody knows differently. It was behind. It was like in an alley.
Yeah. So we put out a couple 7
Hug Fest
inches
in the alley.
during when Kaia and Melissa were not in the band, and played with Marceo's bandmate Amanda from Vegas Beat, and I mean, we had some really good shows too. I mean, it was totally different, but we had some really good shows. This is it's hard because I love Kyle, I miss Kyle, but we did, like, it was really, we had some really, we did, like, I have some good memories of that time, and like some of that music that we made I really love. And it's gonna be, some of the songs are gonna be on the singles comp, which, thank you, Kyle, for being down with being able to put all those together.
Yeah, we've.
And then we all, like, super fell in love and played for Homo Go-Go with the 2 drummers
Yeah, that was
on stage.
great.
And that's like that's like the start of the new era that's been since then, which is just
2004, just a few years ago.
just a couple years ago, Tanya.
It does feel like that.
It does. No, it seems like that. We're like, yeah, and then 2004
It's kind of crazy.
was 15 years ago.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the Next Gen Love Fest has been rolling on for a
Yeah, it
while.
really has. Doesn't feel like very long.
You look different than you
Yes.
did before.
Yes.
If you could talk a little bit about that journey and playing now as a trans man in the formerly,
Yeah.
lesbian band Team Dresch.
Yeah, so obviously I kind of talked about and sprinkled it in, like, kind of like how I felt growing up and just sort of like not fitting in, and like, well, maybe this is how I feel once I met, like, a Butch Dyke on the bus who we became friends, and then I ended up, my first girlfriend was like her ex-girlfriend, so typical story. And I was like 18, and it's like, oh my gosh, maybe this is who I am. But then I always still was like, I just don't feel like, as a little kid, I know that I'm not, I'm telling my sister, at 4 that don't call me, my dead name. My name is Mark, or, like I said in my story, my Instagram and Facebook stories, of just saying, that I'm a boy, I'm your brother, and just being like, you're a weirdo, That's just, it wasn't like you're terrible, but it was like, it's kind of embarrassing. That's something to be ashamed of. Don't say that. You're just, you're just a tomboy. And so then I grew up and came out as, a lesbian, Butch Dyke, and then in the band, that felt, this like, oh, this is my community. But then I started, because of the band and because of touring, meeting people on tour that were maybe genderqueer, or like people were transitioning, and I was just like, what is that? That's so scary and so amazing, and also I'm freaked out and I'm jealous, and that's how I feel. That's who I am. But there's no way. So here we are. It took me till middle age to really fully get to this place of like talking about it for the last 10 plus years with my partner, and her just sort of encouraging me and saying, this is something you've been talking about. This is who you are. You need to do this. I'm here. Everybody loves you. There might be some folks in your family that are going to be weird, but you can do this. And because of that support, you got somebody who's like, you can do this. It just, and I immediately fired out an email to these guys and folks. And
I didn't think anything about that.
I know. And I just, I was like, who's the first people that I thought of that I want to come out to? My family, my closest friends and my family. And I was like, I have a feeling they're going to be okay with it, but I don't know. And of course, everybody, supported me. And I came out 3 years ago. So being in this band now, and we've had these conversations, it's been like, well, where do I fit in now? Like, here I am. I identify as trans at work. Some folks know from who knew before, and some folks don't know. So it's like, well, that's kind of a comfortable place to not have the questions, And so we had talks, and I kind of let them know, like, I'm kind of, feeling sort of, I don't know where I fit in, and just kind of getting another sort of like, remember, people our age, people that you saw, there are tons of people. This is amazing. You are representing people that probably feel and are the same as you, that are, whether they came out at 20 or whether they came out at 40, or 44, which was my age when I came out. So it just, I think that it just really, it was actually quite easy in that way. Like, I felt it was pretty easy. I haven't really, luckily, a lot of people don't have it that easy, so I feel like I have to tell my story, because people need to see that you can come out any age. And my doctor even said, when I went in to tell her, like, I think I want to take hormones, and she's just like, great. And I'm like, but I'm too old. She's like, no, you're not. I have a 70-year-old trans woman. She's just coming in here. She's 70. She's a veteran, or whatever. She's like, you can do this. So just between those two pieces, my partner and my doctor saying, you're not too old. You can do this. We'll monitor. It's fine. So you're healthy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been kind of my journey. And here we are. I feel like this is what a time. With our world. It's why not? Everybody's like, let's do this. Let's put out some songs. Let's record, let's tour, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, what made you all decide to do this now? Like, you've got kids, you got some stuff
And
going
I'm
on.
working on a rock opera about artificial intelligence. That's what's really holding me back.
Wow.
I mean, not holding me back, but
Yes,
that's
time.
what Team Dresch tears me away from.
Whose idea was it?
I think it was Kaia, but I
It was
just
Kaia.
don't know.
I think it was.
Ryan and I think, had some conversations like, do you
Might have been
want-
Marcéo.
Yeah, we both were like, yeah, let's play again.
Yeah,
But I think you were really definitely like,
Yeah.
pushing more. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's just-
We go- I
got
feel like we
songs
go
us.
in
We got
waves
songs in us.
Of just like whoever, if it's like me and I'm like, I really need to play some shows right now. And you guys are like, well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. And I have to be like,
Oh,
come on,
yeah.
I'm the cheerleader of this show.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, but this time around, you guys were the cheerleaders.
Yeah, we were the cheerleaders. I mean, we're all busy in our own life, outside of music too. I mean, our own work.
We played a show a couple years ago though that like in town after
yeah.
that guy got elected, Janet Slater-Kinney put on a show, and what was it called? It was called
Hell
like,
No.
Hell No,
Fuck
yeah.
you, or yeah,
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell
And
no.
It was after the election.
It just was an awesome show. Like everyone was great. The show was great. Janet is really good at putting on a show, and like we played really well. I thought. Like I don't know. There was something about it for me that I was like, I want to write music with these guys. I actually want to do this now. I want to see what the music is going to be.
And so it was, I mean, would you say it was slightly influenced by this kind of like political culture?
It's
That-
hard to
Is-
say.
It's hard, yeah,
Isn't
it
it
is hard.
always
No
kind of
idea.
like I feel
I
like
mean,
it's like we're living
yeah.
the '90s all over again, only
Yeah.
multiplied times.
But that's not where we're like, oh, let's start a band again.
We
Oh, yeah.
we did always talk about writing new songs. We
We've
just
always
didn't
talked
do
about
it
that.
until now. Like since we've
no,
talked
we
We were
about
supposed
writing.
to put out that 2008 album.
Yeah, we've loosely
got a
written
song
new songs
from-
too.
That's the newest song. 2000.
No, but I mean, but we did like over 10 years ago. It was like, oh, this label
Yeah.
says they'll put out a record. This like
Yeah.
we should do it. Let's have
And then
we just
nothing.
didn't do it. So it's always been this kind of. That's why I felt like, okay, I know what it's like to consider this for real, to really think about whether we're gonna do it, and it felt like, yeah, I do really want to do it.
Yeah, and what practicing for that show too. I think that was part of it. It was just like playing music again, and like we are.
Didn't we just play those like killer shows at Mississippi Studios right before that?
Yes, we did,
Oh, okay.
and so I think that we're just like, oh yeah, we have such good chemistry. We
fun
need to
on
make
stage.
music love, but new babies,
New babies.
new music baby compositions. Because I mean, and we've
I
only
mean, I
just
thought
begun.
those
and it's
Mississippi
really,
Studio
it
shows
is
were
super
way
fun.
more
and-
fun than that Hell No show.
What's that?
I
Oh, the
guess- well,
Mississippi
I know, it's just to each his
Studios.
own.
What is different now besides the fact that, I mean, me as a fan,
Mm-hmm.
you as musicians, we are all older. What's it like being older,
Yeah,
Can't jump
playing
aside.
punk rock?
I never
Can't
could
stay
jump.
up past 10,
Mhm.
but got a power nap. Like
Oh, it's so much
I
harder
gotta
to
plan for that. I
organize.
gotta like start planning for the late nights.
This is
That's
a
only-
difficult
I
thing.
mean, it's
For me, it's
every
like it's
stereotypical thing you would say about an old person, probably.
Yeah, it's hard to organize us to practice, or like
Yeah.
it's hard. It's harder because we are all busier too, but we're also more
I
tired.
mean, we all have real jobs
We
and
all have
stuff.
jobs. Yeah, like
Uh,
I work 9-hour days. I'm sleeping.
But there's I don't know. There's a part of me personally that I do feel more like I enjoy things differently and more fully than I did as a youngster. So that part is actually a pro.
Yeah, we have way
I mean-
more fun now.
We play better. We definitely play better. I feel like some of this, I mean, if I like were in better shape, I could do the things that I did then. So I don't think I can totally blame it on age, but like some of the impulsiveness, like climbing up on Marceo's kick drum, which then collapsed and
Yeah.
broke. You know,
That's
it was fun to jump off of drums, and I think some people my age can probably still pull it off. I would probably not be able to, and I did hurt Marceo's drum, so it's maybe good not to. But also some of the things about not being as like wild on stage, I think it does, like I play better because of it. So I try to like think of the plus side of not being crazy on stage.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
After those shows, like you're talking about in Mississippi,
Yeah.
whether you're jumping around or being crazy, like looking back, we played better, but the stage banter is also you still have that, but you all still have that good interaction with the audience, being in the front, and because we play better, the audience is just like, this is incredible. This is the great live show. Like you get your money's worth. You know what I mean?
If we practice.
If we practice.
Oh yeah.
Let's hope. I don't know. That's kind of what I think is. I feel like those shows People said we sounded great.
Yeah, those shows were super fun for me.
Did we practice a lot before them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think we did a
We
few
gotta
times.
practice.
We had a few times.
We
I
gotta
think we
practice.
practiced like 5 times.
How do you feel about your role in and contribution to rock history as a whole? It's a tough one.
I feel great.
Just Kaia Wilson, I feel great.
Just
That's like me in
terrific.
therapy. Fine.
Good. Let's see what my heart's feeling like.
oh, that is a heavy one. Or like a.
Oh.
I hope we're not done. I mean,
Nice,
Oh.
Dresch. Nice. I feel
hope we
like
can
even
continue.
being asked that question, the fact that I'm sitting here being asked that question just makes me feel so deeply thankful and just almost makes me cry.
I think in terms of contributions musically, but also politically, like one thing that stands out is how many people have come to us over the years and said, either in person or in a letter or email or whatever, that we have helped them through really difficult things in their lives. Sometimes saved their lives if they felt like they were all alone and they weren't, because of our music, because they could find us. I'd say that feels like to me, probably the most meaningful thing is just being able to be part of a bigger validating and uplifting people's lives and our own lives through that. And because we've all had that experience of the people who influenced us and kept us from going under, So to get to be that role too feels really like an honor.
yes.
I think it sums it up perfectly.
You guys were so important to me when I was growing up. I would just like read Spin Magazine, read about, and I would just pray that like some musician that I looked up to was like gay.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were talking
Yeah.
about, you just don't know that.
Yeah,
anything
you want to
else
see
exists. I
some.
wanted
You
to
see
it,
yourself.
Mhm.
and I saw you, and you guys weren't like, you were not quiet about it.
What?
No, I even was like, I didn't even like tell people you were my closet band, because like if I liked you, then I would have like outed myself in high school, you know what I mean? So there was that too. It's like I sort of didn't start really listening to you until I was in my 20s and could be out and like live my life comfortably.
Yeah.
But you were one of my like closet high school bands, because it's like I don't want to tell people that you listen to Team Dresch, because then high school's gonna be rough.
Yeah, absolutely. You had to hide the queer things. I mean, I
Like they would know who we were.
Yeah.
Would they even know
Yeah.
what that was?
Oh yeah. No, I got enough shit, and I've like always
Yeah.
had long hair, so I don't know. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that you're still. I mean, now I'm 38. My friend, we're all in our 30s, and you're still like influencing us, and you're still so important and just like such a vital part of I think of just like music history as a whole. Not fucking queercore, not riot girl, but just like rock history. That's why, trying to get rid of like genres and compartmentalizations and just.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's hard with those labels. It's like they're like, "Are you a queercore band?" I was like, "That doesn't resonate. Nothing
Yeah.
resonates."
Well, now I understand. I remember though when I was younger, like reading for the first time that like the punk bands didn't call themselves punk. I don't know how old I was when I read that. I could have been 13 or whatever, and I was like, huh?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And now I
It's all
totally get it.
retrospectively, but it ends up being used as a way for media who's still very much like white cis male dominated, to like separate marginalized people out of the larger narrative.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that like I don't know why you can't just why queercore or why riot girl queercore punk can't be a part of.
It's weird too because like
Yeah.
Donna was talking about this yesterday. It's like at the time in the Northwest, like yes, we were trying to build a queer community. Yes, of course. Like yes, Portland was not always like, oh, I'm going to move to Portland because I'm queer. It was like, oh, I live in Portland and there are 6 other queer people here that I know of, and I heard there are 20 others, and I want to meet them. But everyone loved music. The people that love music in the Northwest, the music lovers, like everybody loved each other. We all went to each other's shows. Our shows, sometimes we play a show like at a, feminist house, punk house or whatever. It was mostly like women identified people or queers and genderqueer. But most of our shows was like just the same people that you would see at a Cracker Bash show or at a Loa show or at a, it was all a total mix. It wasn't separated into these lanes like it is,
Yeah.
like it ends up
I feel
being.
like we're more lumped into this queer identity than we ever have been.
Oh, definitely. But part of that is why we're able to go on tour now still. So some of it is awesome, and some of it is like not as awesome. You can quote me on that. Some of it is awesome, and some of it is not as awesome.
I'm gonna put that on my Instagram post.
Thank you.
Some
of it is awesome.
Some of it
is not as awesome.
Wisdom.
Okay, went off on a tangent. I had to tell you guys that.
That's awesome though.
Thank you, Tanya.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts on the visibility of women in rock history in general? Is there a gender discrepancy? Is gender not an issue at all? Has it changed for better or worse? So not like musicians currently playing, but the visibility of women in rock history.
Well, they just weren't as visible.
No. Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's better now? Like, when you, I'm thinking about, and like rock history books or, stupid Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like why did it
who
take
gets
that many years for
remembered?
Hart to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
This is not really our wheelhouse, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
There's like different, but there's different levels, I think. Like, I use that as an example, but I feel like there are different tiers of kind of like historical longevity. So I don't like consider Team Dresch as a band that would ever be like good, would ever be nominated for like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I feel like within
Jody is
that-
in the Oregon Hall of Fame.
What?
Well, that's an example though. It's like, I mean, the Oregon Hall. There's an Oregon Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
yeah.
and Hazel is in it, but Team Dresch is not.
See?
Right.
And who knows if we'll ever be asked to be, And I mean, I love Hazel, but Hazel couldn't go on the tour that we're going on, like play these different towns and like I mean, I really see it in those, I mean, I saw a lot of things like being in both of those bands at the same time, but Donna's right though. It's hard to like. I don't know, but I know there's not enough. There aren't enough, and of course they're not like treated the same way in history, and we don't. I know that I'm like almost 50, and when I see your videos, like Kate Schellenbach, someone who I'm friends with, I am like desperate to hear her talk about her experience in rock. So I'm desperate to hear her talk about it, and I'm 50, and I've been in this scene for 30 years, and I know her already. So, that tells you a lot about how much it's needed, to hear the stories and the stories are different than the stories of the male colleagues.
How do you feel about the category women of rock, women in rock, women who rock, whatever? Helpful or hurtful? Necessary or unnecessary? Would it be more productive in this supposed post-gender time to omit gendered categories altogether?
I just look in the index and see if I'm listed.
I'm like, can we check the box? Maybe. I'm kidding.
I think that's a good question, actually, and I think personally, I
complex.
think it can omitting the gender category or whatever. But at the same time, I also understand the importance of what we were just talking about earlier about like how women. But what is that? There's trans women. Like where does that fit in? Like where I don't know. It's really it's so complex. It's such a complex thing to talk about and think about.
Let's try it.
Much more
Let's
thought.
give it an experience. Let's just
Let's
give it a
do it.
shot and see what happens. Everybody,
omit it?
yeah,
Okay.
everybody. From now on, no more
Omit it.
category, and let's see what happens. I'd be curious. If
It's one of those things. It's like ideally, you're beyond it because it's not like this. It's like I don't know. Tip top.
Humans in rock.
Well, it's like gender is largely a
it-
construct. Like
it
if you
is.
look at, I don't know, just read a book about like biologically, like all these different ways that sex is expressed. The ways that it's expressed biologically, it's just so much more. It's so complicated. There are so many markers, and then there are so few markers where people think there are, like in the brain or whatever. So we know that we could break all this down and just we could just say like no gender categories. But that isn't actually that is not the experience in our culture so far. So like, for example, if like I love your project and I want to go look at those videos because I know that I'm getting the stories of the experiences of these people who I'm going to be able to relate to and who haven't been, and whose stories haven't been told as much. And I'm desperate for that. So without that label and that category, I wouldn't be able to find that. But at the same time, can I see and want to work to something that's beyond that, and like raising children, do I see how incredibly harmful like gender stereotypes and gender roles are to all children, even if they don't think it is, even if their parents don't think it is, it is. Because they're just rules that aren't, the rules that aren't actually rules, that are limiting people and hurting them. So both. It's like you have to do both at the same time.
Donna, do you love gender categories?
I'm good at like talking about like what kind of pedals I use.
What kind of pedals do you use?
I mean, right now I'm using a Ibanez Super Metal, right? And then I got a spare one that Kaia's using. I use a Fender Dual Showman as my main amp, and then I use a Sovtek MiG 50 as my like dirty, and I kind of blend them.
Sparkle drive.
Wait, have you always been a gearhead?
I'm like the nuts and bolts. These guys are really good at theory. I am not so good at theory.
Huh?
No, I mean, I'm not pretty. Well, what's funny is that I'm not a gearhead at all. I'm just like, oh, this amp, like, I can turn it on,
Yeah, that's
and
me
that
too.
works. So it doesn't occur to me
Like, turn it on.
To ask questions like that because I don't give a shit. And a lot of people really do care, and sometimes I'll like forget to ask those questions because I'm more into like, well, how are you feeling when you bought the pedal?
Well, I figure when the revolution comes, I'm going to be the one that's like setting up the tents and setting up the like weaponry or whatever they, like digging
And
the
the scanners.
trenches, monitoring the
listen.
frequencies,
You don't have to.
and then like other people will be setting policies, and I'll be like, yes, you're good at that. Meanwhile, I'm gonna be like over here like twisting these wires together so you can get the thing to say what you want to say.
You can employ me. You boss me around. I'll do that. I am not a policy
I'll ride my
person
bike
I
to
wanna
wherever I
help
need
you-
to deliver something.
Okay, I want to
My
help you
e-bike.
guys run the wires, but then I'm going to go hang out outside the policy tent and listen.
Yes. Make sure.
And then I'm gonna like go hang out with those people afterwards and listen to them again while they're drinking coffee. But then I'm gonna go back and run cable with you guys.
Okay, cool. We all have our role.
Just documenting all of this.
Can I just sit and watch you guys and
Yeah.
eat
But
like s'mores?
I have to say though, we were just saying the other day, like, whoa, it's been 30 years and we're still like, wait, if the head is 2 ohms and the speaker is 4 ohms, does that make 2 ohms or 6 ohms or 8 ohms? Ah, we're gonna die not knowing this.
I know, and I've had the same
This
equipment.
does have a limit.
It needs to be run in parallel.
Series.
I finally just changed the tubes in my tube amp, and I was so proud of myself.
That's
amazing,
I
Tanya.
never. It's actually not. I didn't know it wasn't hard. I was like, oh, I've been paying people to
It's
do
just
this.
like putting in a
Pull
light
them out,
bulb.
put them in.
Yeah, I just watched the YouTube video. It's like, son of a bitch. Okay. All right, last question. This is the Oprah one.
Oh, what does that mean?
It's
Right.
Cry?
I mean, it depends on your answer.
Get ready.
For
Don't wait,
all
I'm
of
a
you,
crybaby, alright? Come on,
I
no
love
tease.
I'm
What
not
are you
teasing.
most proud of personally and or professionally?
Oh golly. Wait, in life?
Band related?
Yeah, I like personally, like in your life, and then also professionally, which would be like the band.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh golly.
But I do and or, so you have a choice. You don't. You can answer.
Oh.
I am most proud of my loving family, like my 2 kids and my wife, and we just like really love each other and have fun and try to be good parents. It's so hard. And I just like when I feel like it's working, if in as much as it's working, I'm most proud of that. Professionally, I don't know, I defer to these guys. You come back to
We're
me
still
the
working on that
professional
one.
part.
Personally, I think it's hard because it's hard to like talk about when I've spent my whole life like not talking about myself like in a very positive, high self-esteem, proud, but therapy and just coming out, I'm just like, fuck yeah. I feel like this has been kind of a big deal, and so I feel and that and proud of my relationship, my partner. I mean, we've really worked through a lot. We've been through a lot of hard stuff, grief, loss, and to just be still very solid and communication. I mean, it's something to be proud of, I feel, and so I feel very proud of that. And professionally, outside of just like the music thing, I mean, that's part of my creativity too. But I do some good work. I work in social work, and I work with folks that are aging and disabled and make sure that they're safe and help them get safe, and I really love that. I didn't think I'd like working with seniors, but I really enjoy it. Yeah, I really, it's can be intense, but I'm proud of that work, and I feel like I get up every day and I want to go do it. Yeah.
Swell.
Swell.
I mean, I'm gonna echo the sentiment. Like, what am I proud of personally in my life? It's just relationships that I've built. All my ex-girlfriends, I'm so proud of them. And me. No, that's so silly. Okay, I have lovely ex. I don't think of relationships that end as failures. So I think of them as learning experiences, let's say. But also just like a really, a moment in time that was successful in its way, But proud of all my family relationships, like with my parents and my dear friends, my bandmates, and just weirdly my dogs and how I raise my dogs. I'm basically a soccer mom. I take my dogs to agility. I do I don't know. I mean, I'm ridiculous, but I feel proud about my caretaking in that way. I think.
That's
I feel
something to be proud of, for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Cereals.
For kids.
You're a good dog.
Boy, yeah, I don't know.
I think professionally,
Music.
yeah, I think, I mean, it's a relationship thing again, but the fact that we're all not just still close, but actually close, because we're definitely closer than we were, even in the early days. And it's not as active, but I still have really good close relationships with everybody in Hazel too. And I just appreciate that so much. It would be really painful if that weren't the case. But just also I've always loved singing so much, but it was only in my 30s that I started studying. I found a really good teacher in LA, and then I found another good teacher in LA, and then when I moved back to Portland, I thought I was never going to find a good teacher because LA is LA. It's awesome, and it's just filled with people that are so talented, And then I found this teacher in Portland, Wolf Carr, who I just love, and Corin studies with him too, and lots of people I know, and I just feel like my singing, it's I just love singing even more. And I feel like I've gotten better, and I feel like part of why I feel excited to explore writing songs is because I want to explore that more and doing more things with my voice and different things. And I'm not always good about being disciplined but I've been pretty disciplined about practicing with that and studying, and so I'm proud of that.
Donna, are you proud that you're a legend?
Yeah, Dreshy.
That seems weird. Okay. What am I proud of? I mean, I'm really proud that I made my very first scene and put out those cassettes on my Make Toast Not Whir cassette label because of that, and because I wrote letters to GB Jones, and because I was able to take a leap of faith and meet these people, then it turns that meet you guys, and then keeps going and keeps going. It's I really am just all about the people and needing to create the message board or create the fanzine or create the thing to connect. And so I'm really glad I did that, and I hope I can keep finding ways to keep doing that.
Yeah. I'm gonna say same in terms of like if I was to be proud of a professional or like what led me down like what I would consider my music anyway, music profession. It's being able to like figure out how to find the people and find Donna, like just like how you found GB Jones, like I found you, and then it's just like once you get that one lifeline, then like everything else just you can create it can come to you. It's like a lovely, I don't know.
I'm proud of the new song we wrote.
Which one?
The new one,
Oh,
the
God,
newest
I
one.
love our
Good
new
job,
song. It's so good.
That was my most recent proud moment.
It's so
That I
good.
actually
So
went in
good.
and I actually was able to come up with stuff that I liked.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's
Big-
like
big
a
fan.
lyric in it that's like there's no other way. It's just it sounds like it's just like a romance thing, but really I feel like it's just about like continuing to say yes to just trying to do stuff. Trying to leave the house, trying to go to band practice, trying to play another show, and like keeping it going, trying to stay engaged in the world, and it's I think I'm glad that you still want to do that, you guys.
Me too.
Yeah.
Aw. And you said band practice again, so that's it.
I'm not even
If
thinking
there's
about
any-
band
I think we
Yeah,
probably
I mean,
actually we
I
maybe
feel so bad.
Technically, we only have 15 minutes.
you shouldn't feel bad
Oh, no, are you
because
kidding me, Tanya?
this is more important.
Yeah.
This is more important than
It's just
the
total
band practice.
happenstance that we practice on Thursdays with it. This is really important. Thank you, Tanya.
But it's good to
Well,
keep
is
our
there-
it's
is-
keeping our brain sharp.
Yeah.